So in the first episode of this series, which will be linked in the playlist below, along with all the other episodes that are already out, and where all upcoming episodes will be linked as well in this transfer series. But in that first episode, I outlined which positions United need to be improving in the summer, and what United need to be looking for in any player brought in to improve those positions. I won't go into the tactical side of what Ten Hag needs from a centre forward too much, as I did discuss it in that video, but let me just briefly go through some of the attributes that I think any centre forward brought into Ten Hag's side will need in order to function in his system. But before I go any further, let me tell you about the sponsor of today's video, OneFootball, which has become my favourite football app because it has everything you need to keep up to date with the latest news and transfers, providing you with articles to read as well as videos to watch, whilst also being excellent for keeping up to date with all the matches from across the world that are going on, providing a live ticker as well as match ratings and statistics, whilst also allowing you to check your team stats from across the whole season. If you're sick of having to use Google and Twitter to search for news and stats that you want to see, then the OneFootball app is definitely the app for you, so I'll leave it linked in the description below, and by downloading the app you will be helping to support the channel. So as I've discussed in many previous videos, Ten Hag has used a variety of different types of centre forwards, from a false 9 like Dusan Tadic at Ajax during the 2018-2019 season, but towards the latter end of his Ajax tenure, he did use Sebastian Haller as more of an orthodox target man, who would retain more of an advanced position in the attack, and that is similar to what we see from Wout Weghorst. As well as like Haller, we will see Weghorst drop off from the forward line to link the play. He does so very quickly and efficiently, playing the role of a deeper lying forward, whereas someone like Dusan Tadic would play more as a false 9, dropping off and holding his position between the lines and almost playing as an attacking midfielder at times during the attacking phase. And so it is hard to exactly pin down what Ten Hag would be looking for in a new centre forward, but I think in general the centre forward brought in needs to be an elite level goal scorer, or at least have the potential of reaching that level within the next few seasons. But they've also got to have the ability to link the play, dropping off from the forward line and being able to link the play in congested central areas. And so strikers like Darwin Núñez or Romelu Lukaku, who struggle in this department, would not be compatible with Ten Hag's system. Those two areas, along with the ability to function in an aggressive pressing system, are all essential for any centre forward brought in, but also having attacking aerial ability in the box, making them goal scoring threats from crossing situations, whilst having the ability to progress the ball into dangerous areas or create chances themselves, are also skill sets that could be very important to this United side. So now that we've briefly gone over what United need to be looking for in a centre forward, let's go through some options. The first player I'm going to talk about is a player who we saw glimpses of at the World Cup, and that is Randal Kolo Muani, who's been excellent for Eintracht Frankfurt in the Bundesliga this season, recording 9 goals and 12 assists in 19 Bundesliga games, and having only turned 24 in December, he's still quite a way off his peak years. Now at the moment, he's definitely not an elite level goal scorer, but his underlying numbers do look very good. According to his FB ref report, over the past 365 days, he's recorded a non-penalty goals rate of 0.42, which ranks in the 62nd percentile, and with his non-penalty XG being 0.35 per 90, ranking in the 48th percentile, he is actually overperforming his non-penalty XG by 0.07 per 90, which shows that statistically Muani is a clinical finisher when he gets the chances. Now obviously if he was put into a better side, he's going to get more chances and his non-penalty XG is going to increase, and so you would also expect his overall goal scoring to increase as well. However, at the moment I don't think he necessarily has the ability to create chances via his movement himself, in the same way that other strikers, who I will be coming on to later on in the video, can do consistently at the highest level. However, Muani's a forward that offers a lot more than just goal scoring. He's a fantastic progressor of the ball, able to drop off between the lines, receive the ball to feet in congested areas, and being able to swivel out of pressure before driving the attack forward. And we can see this as he ranks in the 96th percentile for his successful take-ons, the 88th for his carries into the final third, and the 92nd for his carries into the penalty area. And so from these metrics we can see that Muani really is a hybrid between a centre forward and a winger, and is definitely going to be an asset in terms of his ability to progress the ball into the final third and into the box and get his side into dangerous creative positions. He also ranks in the 86th percentile for his XG assisted, which explains why he's been able to rack up so many assists this season, as he is a very creative forward. However, I do have a few issues with Muani. First of all, he definitely thrives when playing in a quick transition and attack, which United do very successfully, but a lot of the problems that United have faced recently have come up against sides who defend in a deep compact defensive block, and so the space that Muani has on the counter to drive the attack forward and find through balls is definitely not going to be be as available in this Manchester United system as it is when he plays for Eintracht Frankfurt. But the other problem I have with this Muani transfer would be the cost, as he does have a contract at Eintracht Frankfurt until 2027, and they're already putting out rumours that he's going to cost around the £90 million mark, which I just think is too high for what Muani currently offers, and even when you factor in his potential. I would pay at most £50 million for Muani, and even then you could argue that there are better options on the market, but certainly anything above 70 million I wouldn't go anywhere near, and so that's why I would probably rule out Muani, at least in the next summer transfer window. The next player who I think could be a good option for Manchester United is Borussia Mönchengladbach's Marcus Thuram. Thuram, like Muani, was in the French squad during the World Cup and is in his mid-20s, 25, 26 in August. And like Muani, Thuram also has elements of both a centre forward and a winger in his playing style. However, I would say that the big difference between the two is that Muani is more of a winger with centre forward traits, whereas Thuram is more of a centre forward with winger-like traits. And so I definitely think that Marcus Thuram is better equipped to play as a lone striker in a 4-3-3 system. And this is because I think Marcus Thuram is a level above Kolo Muani in terms of his goal scoring ability. Now in pure stats, Thuram has picked up 10 goals alongside 3 assists in 19 Bundesliga games, which is a similar amount to Muani, but when we look at Thuram's FB ref report, over the last 365 days, Thuram does rank significantly higher than Muani, scoring 0.53 non-penalty goals per game, which sits him in the 84th percentile, from a non-penalty XG of 0.51 per 90, which sits in the 87th percentile. So like Muani, Thuram is overperforming his non-penalty XG, suggesting that he is a clinical finisher. However, I think the difference between the two is their movement in the box. I just think that Thuram has a better knack of judging where a ball is going to go when it's in a crossing position, and he's able to position himself so that he can get to the ball before the defender, whether this is making a darting run in front of his marker to get to the ball first, or pulling around the back of the defender to open up a passing lane for him to receive the ball. And when he is in these finishing positions, he's extremely cool, and this does remind me of Anthony Martial. He's got that composure in front of goal to race through on goal at speed, but then just open up his body and slot the ball past the keeper, or fake to do this and go round the keeper before putting the ball in an empty net. Thuram would also provide more of an aerial threat than Muani in the box, which is definitely something that could aid Ten Hag and Manchester United when they push opposition teams back into their defensive third and they have more opportunities to create chances via crosses from the flanks. However, despite Thuram being a better overall goal scorer than Muani in my opinion, Muani is definitely the more creative forward. And this can be seen as whilst Muani ranked in the mid 80th percentiles for his XG assisted, Thuram only ranks in the 40th percentile, which isn't bad, but it's certainly not at that elite level that we see from other creative forwards or even at the level of Muani. However, this doesn't mean that Thuram doesn't have the ability to link and create chances for others, as whilst I would say that Muani thrives when he's able to drift out into wide positions and then look to create chances from there, Thuram prefers to hold central positions, and he's very good in congested areas, having an intricate dribbling style able to receive the ball and lay it off quickly, similar to Anthony Martial, and this definitely helps link the attack. And he's also able to play first time and quick, subtle flicks and passes to release players around the box. So I would actually compare him in this instance to someone like Olivier Giroud, who's really the focal point for other players to make runs off of and potentially receive the ball from his passes. But like Muani, Thuram could also be considered a top level ball progressor when the ball is at his feet. And this is because he ranks around the 80th percentile for his carries into the final third, and around the 90th percentile for his successful take-ons, progressive carries, and carries into the penalty area. And he also ranks around the 85th to 95th percentile mark when it comes to the percentage of take-ons he's actually successful with, and the amount of times he's actually tackled during one of those take-ons. And so not only is Thuram producing a high amount of carries and take-ons, but he's also very reliable when attempting them as well. Now, despite Thuram's size being 6'4", I wouldn't class him as a target man, as I don't think he stands out in the air, as he only wins about 42% of his aerial duels, ranking in the 48th percentile. And I also think he's much better at receiving vertical passes to feet than receiving long passes into his chest. And so really I'd describe Thuram as a taller version of Anthony Martial, being able to play as a deeper lying forward, dropping off to link the play, but also having that pace to burst in behind the back line, whilst also having excellent intricate ball control in congested areas, and being a composed finisher as well. There is also the fact that his contract at Borussia Mönchengladbach is up at the end of the season, so he would be available on a free. And so once you factor in Kolo Muani's probable transfer fee in excess of 60 or 70 million pounds, and Thuram being a better stylistic fit for what Ten Hag needs in a centre forward, I think it becomes obvious that Thuram would be the better option for United to sign in the summer. The next player I will be analysing is Brentford's Ivan Toney, who is 26, 27 in March, and is a centre forward who's definitely more stylistically similar to Marcus Thuram than Kolo Muani, and is more of a natural forward than Thuram, not being a player who's going to spin out into the flanks and use his pace as Thuram and Muani both can. Instead, Toney specialises in dropping off from the forward line and receiving balls to feet or into his chest and linking play with subtle layoffs, whilst also having a similar creative style to Harry Kane in terms of his ability to thread through balls for on-running attackers in behind the back line. And we'll see this in greater detail when we look at Ivan Toney's creative numbers, but let's first look at what he offers from a goal scoring point of view. So in the Premier League this season, Toney is the third top goal scorer behind Harry Kane and Erling Haaland, with an impressive total of 14 goals in 20 games. Admittedly, 4 of these goals have come from the sport, but 10 goals in 20 Premier League games for a side like Brentford is still extremely impressive. And when you look at the leaderboard for non-penalty goals, he still sits in a very impressive 4th place, with only Marcus Rashford overtaking him when we go from overall goals to non-penalty goals. And his FBref report over the last 365 days does support this, as he's recording 0.42 non-penalty goals per 90, ranking in the 61st percentile, from a non-penalty XG of 0.40, ranking in the 58th percentile, showing he is overperforming his non-penalty XG by 0.02 goals per 90, which shows not only is Toney very consistent in taking the chances that he's provided with, but he's also scoring at a very sustainable level, meaning that if he is inserted into this Manchester United side, you can expect him to at least score the same amount of goals that he is now, but if anything you'd expect an increase because he is going into a better offensive side. But it's when we look at Toney's creative output where he really stands out from other forwards. He ranks in the 77th percentile for his XG assisted, showing his ability to create chances for others, whilst he also sits in the 73rd percentile for his progressive passes, the 77th for his passes into the penalty area, and the 84th for his passes into the final third, showing that Toney isn't just an asset in terms of creating and getting into goal scoring positions within the final third, but he's also an extremely valuable asset in terms of progressing the play forward earlier on in the attack. And this is why if Ten Hag was looking for a deep lying forward in the mode of someone like Harry Kane, Karim Benzema or Robert Lewandowski, Ivan Toney would be a perfect stylistic fit. I think particularly with the positional fluidity that we see incorporated in Ten Hag's attack, having Ivan Toney drop off from the forward line, dragging a centre back with him and then having the ability to receive a vertical pass to feet, and then subtly laying off the ball, linking the attack, and allowing the players behind him like Bruno Fernandes, Christian Eriksen or even himself to find a through ball for the likes of Marcus Rashford, who can make direct runs into the space that Ivan Toney's vacated in that back line. And I think Marcus Rashford especially would benefit from having a deeper lying forward like Ivan Toney, as Rashford is essentially transforming into a forward of his own, starting from wide positions and making runs into central positions and at times becoming United's focal point in the attack. And so with me preferring Marcus Thuram over Kolo Muani, not just because of the price but also because I think Thuram is a better stylistic fit, it comes down to Ivan Toney and Thuram as the two alternative options for Manchester United if they weren't going for a real premium option. I do think Toney would be expensive however, probably costing around £60 million, but I actually think he would be worth that fee, and I would actually prefer him to Marcus Thuram, as I do think that both players are on a similar level in terms of their goal scoring ability, but Toney offers so much more in the build up, being excellent at linking the attack and being a creative force on his own. And I think with Toney being more of a withdrawn centre forward, this would benefit the likes of Antony and Marcus Rashford, and even the likes of Bruno Fernandes as well. But I am going to come on to the likes of Osimhen and Kane in the next episode of this series, and I will be comparing them to Ivan Toney and discussing who I would actually sign for Manchester United in this summer transfer window. So if you do want to see that video, make sure you subscribe to the channel and click the bell so you do get notified when it comes out. Give this video a like and check out some of my other videos, including the other episodes in this series, which will be linked in the description. Put your thoughts in the comment section, and you can follow me on Instagram and Twitter as well for more content.